The prospect of passing gun safety legislation in the aftermath of a horrific mass shooting shouldn't feel all that daunting. And it's not daunting if you look at other countries around the world. Just look north of the U.S. border. Canada, days after a shooting here in the United States in Uvalde, Texas, identified guns as the problem and introduced a bill, actual pieces of legislation, imagine that, to heavily restrict gun sales. Their prime minister, while announcing the new measures, said, "We need only look south of the border to know that if we do not take action firmly and rapidly, it gets worse and worse." He's talking about us, y'all. Meanwhile, here in America, south of the border of Canada, one of the top leaders in the Republican Party is ready to talk about everything but guns.
And it seems to me there are two broad categories that underscore the problem: mental illness and school safety. So hopefully we can find a way to come together and make some progress on this horrendous problem.
So that's the backdrop as a bipartisan group of senators negotiate at least a framework for possible gun legislation. And a primary focus will be on mental health and school safety, and a smaller focus on actual gun restrictions. Joining me now to discuss, MSNBC writer and editor Hayes Brown. He just published a piece titled "The Crushing Hopeless Familiarity of the Response to the Texas Shooting." And I've been thinking a lot about this lately, Hayes, because I feel like we can look at other countries. It's not like this is an unsolvable problem where, you know, we have to come up with some sort of miracle of science like they did with the COVID vaccine or something like that. There are solutions that we know work because they're working in other places. I mean, if you were a betting man, though, do you think it's going to pass here, even though all of those facts, as I laid them out about what works in other places, would work here, but we just don't have the political will to do it?
I really would not place my bet on that, and that makes me really sad to say, honestly. Like, I wish that I could comfortably lay down money on the Senate finding the 10 Republican votes needed to get past the filibuster to actually pass any sort of legislation related to school shootings and gun control. But given the factors, given what they're focusing on, that just really does not seem like the case. The Senate bipartisan group talking about mental health and school safety, that does not cover the core problem that overarches between those two. Like, it seems like it should just be Occam's razor that the simplest solution is to go after the guns and say, okay, well, if it's that easy to get a gun, as again we saw in Tulsa as well, if it's that easy to get a gun and then go and use it, to get this instrument of death and then to use it within hours of saying that you even want it, that should be the common thread that runs between all of these things. But instead we're talking about, oh, well, we should have more money for school safety, build the wall around schools, I guess, seems to be the new talking point from Republicans. And they just seem to be wanting to talk about, like you said, anything except guns in this situation where guns are the instrument that are being used to kill mass numbers of people.
I mean, should we even engage them in a conversation at this moment? I'm not talking about the specific negotiations on Capitol Hill, but in a lot of ways, I even am growing tired of the fact that we listen to them when they're like, thoughts and prayers. I'm like, you're actually not praying. I don't believe you're praying. Actually, I'm calling BS on the praying, because I don't think that your intercession seems to be faulty if you are actually doing a real prayer to anything, to any God somewhere. But even beyond that, I feel like they've seen mass shooting after mass shooting. They're not going to do anything about it, because if they wanted to, they would have done it already.
Right. Instead, they're just really focused on the optics of it amongst their primary base voters, who they have spent decades getting to believe that, you know, the Democrats want to take all guns away from you. They want to make it so that you are helpless against crime, against the bad parts of society. Hint, hint. You know who that means. Wink, wink. Not the members of your family who are, you know, going to commit domestic violence against you. Not the members of your community, as you define it, who will be going in and going after your schools, your grocery stores, etc. They mean to say that we want to make sure that you have a gun so you feel safe against, you know, the black population, safe against the idea of the government coming in and doing whatever they want against you. And we want to twist the Second Amendment to make sure that you have the right to carry that gun no matter who you are or where you go. And that's what they've been selling, and now they are caught in that trap. And if they go against what they've been selling, then it'll be easier for someone else to swoop in and say, well, they are too weak on guns. I want to make sure that you can do all the things that they promised before.
One of the other things I've been thinking about that's related to what you just said is the fact that Republicans don't have a political incentive to do anything on the issue of guns, because the talking point that Democrats are going to come take away your guns, or Obama was coming to your house to take away your AR-15 you got at Walmart, that talking point is effective in energizing their base. They're all about energizing their base. But to quote Molly John Fast, shouldn't Democrats be trying to do the same thing? I mean, isn't the gun safety issue something that could energize the Democratic base and increase turnout on the other side, given the context of the fact that it doesn't appear Republicans have a political incentive to pass anything on gun safety?
I mean, you would think so, but I think what's really fascinating about the formulation that Republicans have hit on is the idea that we don't want to take away guns from law-abiding citizens, which is funny when both A, the law is extremely permissive, which means everybody is technically a law-abiding citizen while you go out and get those guns, and then also everyone is also a law-abiding citizen until you hit the point where you do break the law and use that gun in a fit of violence. And that, I think, is what makes that talking point so effective, and why it's so hard for Democrats to come up with a counter to it, because it then makes them be on the position that, oh, well, we can't trust you with guns, so it makes them seem like they're overly interested in getting into people's lives.
I sort of see it the opposite way. I just think of the dumbest person I know, and I want them to have to pass a background check before getting an AR-15. I feel like that's a common sense position. Like, everybody should think of the dumbest person they know. They should have to pass a check. Like, we should check. You shouldn't be able to go in 3 hours before you want to commit an act of violence and be able to easily do so. That feels like just a majority position in America, and it is. The data bears this out. Hayes Brown, thank you so much for being here. As always, please stay safe. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.